Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hauberg Estates Park in Rock Island, Illinois. We are in for quite the treat today. I'm Redrick Terry, joined by our lead vintage football analyst, Steve Campbell. We are once again in for a big treat today. We are celebrating the birth of professional football right here in Rock Island, the Rock Island Independence, and the Moline Universal Tractors.
Yeah, and what better way to celebrate that birth of the NFL and professional football than with this throwback game here today. And it's going to go back to the league's historic roots that began right here in Rock Island over 100 years ago, and that's what this game will commemorate here today. So here's a quick history lesson for everyone. The National Football League, the NFL, officially formed August 20th, 1920, and it was originally called the American Professional Football Association, or the APFA. The league changed its name to the NFL in 1922, and a little bit after the APFA was formed in 1920, the Rock Island Independents played a non-league opponent, which was the St. Paul Ideals, on September 26, 1920, and the Independents won that game 48-0.
That's a good way to start, and Rock Island's football roots can be traced all the way back to 1902 when the Independents beat the Davenport Standards 6-0. The Independents' first documented full season was actually in 1907, and then by 1919 the Independents were one of the elite football teams in the nation, which is what ultimately led to Rock Island being invited to join the NFL.
The Independents went 2-1-3 in their first full season in 1902, and they outscored their opponents, get this, 82-12. Not too bad to start off with. Then in 1919, the Independents finished 9-1-1 and shut out and beat every team they faced from Ohio. The Independents challenged Jim Thorpe's Canton Bulldogs, who were 10-0, to a game to settle the title. After ongoing discussions about over a month, Thorpe said his team had dispersed for the season, so Canton and Rock Island both claimed the championship that year. But it was that 1919 season that helped the Independents become one of the charter members of the APFA in 1920, and during the APFA NFL years, the Independents posted a 42-14-13 record. And then in 1926, Rock Island made the ill-fated decision to leave the NFL and join the AFL. 1 year later, the league and the team both folded.
Yeah, now, besides elite teams during the 1920s, the Independents also had 4 Pro Football Hall of Famers suit up for them: Jimmy Conzelman, Joel Guyton, Ed Healy, and of course Jim Thorpe from 1924 to 1925.
And MC22's own Natalie Johnson, she was able to catch up with these teams earlier this month to talk about the event going on, and here's what those teams had to say.
The 6th annual Vintage Football Game kicked off in Rock Island to honor the beginning of professional football that took place in Douglas Park a century ago. The event recreates 1920s-style football mixed with today's rules of flag football to showcase the history of the Rock Island Independence and the birth of the NFL.
Rock Island had a team back in the 1900s through mid-1920s that was one of the first teams in the NFL. They started out as a small little neighborhood team and then grew in popularity and got stronger, and were invited to be one of the original 10 teams in the NFL. So we're just out here to keep that memory alive. A lot of people don't even know that we had an NFL team here in the Quad Cities, so we just come out here each year and put on a game for anyone to come out and check it out.
Yeah, come on, Rock Island!
And it does, success.
And the Independents really are only part of this historic celebration. Throughout this broadcast, we're going to have a lot for you. Talk about the Hauberg Estate, Douglas Park, rules of the game, all that and more coming up. Stay with us. The Vintage Football Game, just moments away. Welcome back to our coverage of this year's Vintage Football Game. Redrick Terry, Steve Campbell. Now, Steve, this game has been held in several places, most recently in historic Douglas Park, but this time we are at the Hauberg Estates Park.
Yeah, that's right. This place has its own history tied closely to the development of Rock Island, and MC22's Owen Hoke took a tour of the estate this week to learn more, and here's what he found.
This is Suzanne's house. She had the money and she built it before she married John. So she started in 1908, and it was finished when they came home for their honeymoon and moved in. By 1914, there was $250,000 put into the home, the whole estate actually. And so in today's money, it's a little over $8 million. I think, over 10 different types of wood in the house because she was a lumber heiress. So, and it's all old natural growth, so it's built to stay. There's tulips everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Some people say, well, is that her favorite flower? Well, they ledgered their whole lives. I mean, they documented every day. And she did until she got married, and she was 39 when she got married, and John was 41. After they got married, John took over and actually journaled until he died. And so there's 125 linear feet of paper at Augustana Special Collections. There was music throughout the whole house. And then by 1922, they'd put another $7,000 into it to play the baby grand piano, so it would automatically play. So yeah, the house was filled with music at all times. It was.
And Steve, just so you know, the proceeds from today's event are actually going to help with the restoration of the estate.
Great day, great opportunity for everybody, and a great fundraiser as well. And let's take a closer look at some of the historical context that is surrounding this game today. The Rock Island Independent's first official game featuring an NFL team took place on September 26, 1920, over 100 years ago at Douglas Park here in Rock Island, Illinois. The Independents beat the St. Paul Ideals 48-0.
That's one heck of a win to start it off. And in that same season, on October 3rd, as the Columbus Panhandles lost to the Dayton Triangles, the Independents beat the Muncie Flyers by a score of 45-0.
Again, not a bad way to start things out. And we thought it might be fun to take a look at some interesting facts about the era. In 1920, $1 would be worth about $13.68. 1920 was the first year of prohibition, but you could still get alcohol if prescribed by a doctor for a serious ailment. So I'm sure there were plenty of serious ailments going around the area. KDKA in Pittsburgh became the first radio station to have a regular broadcast. And popular toys from the area included Duncan yo-yos, teddy bears, and Crayola crayons, similar to today, obviously.
Right, of course.
Very similar. And in 1928, pre-sliced bread was sold for the first time ever right here in the Quad Cities, if you could believe that.
Yeah, and even in addition to that, actually, Owen, who we just heard from, we were talking earlier, did you know that sliced bread was actually created here in Davenport by Otto Frederick Rohwedder? He invented it in the 1900s. There's some back and forth as to when it actually was invented, but it all came from the Quad Cities. Another nice piece of history there. So there you go. History abound in terms of football and bread and everything else here in the Quad Cities. We're going to have a fun time today. And the game looks to be set to get underway, so we will take a quick break and come right back with the start of it. Stay with us here on MC22. Away we go with the vintage football game here from Hauberg Estate's Park, and it starts with a run back on the kick return out across the 30 and just short of the 35-yard line. So that's where the Rock Island Independents will get going in this vintage rivalry, Rock Island versus Moline, a rivalry that obviously spans several different levels. I mean, you go all the way to the high school level, the oldest rivalry in all of the state of Illinois, and way back when it was a professional football rivalry as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to always kind of look at these two towns obviously being pretty close and being right next to each other, but then also all the history that you mentioned. Obviously the Maroons, the Rocks, everything kind of going back and forth, and all the way down to Pee-wee levels being taught, oh yeah, Moline, Rock Island, everyone's going to be the rival as you get a little bit older. And here we see pretty much about as old as it can get when you look at the Universal Tractors versus the Independents.
How about a high snap on the first play? It is recovered by one of the backs, and now there he goes up the near sideline, cutting back inside before finally getting that flag ripped off, and a nice run on what turned into a good play after a bit of a shaky start with that high snap. Ends up being a first down for the Independents.
And one of the rules of this game is if there is a botch snap or the ball hits the ground, it's not a fumble. There's no diving for it. It's just kind of a dead ball from there. So even better play when you start looking at being able to catch that ball out of the air and take it and turn it into a great play, not only just positive yardage. And you see the flags out there as well. No tackling or anything in this one. Pretty much a flag football game, but there'll be a lot of interesting parts of this game that we'll get into throughout the day, but the football is definitely one of those. It's very unique, very back to the era, and everyone's getting used to it so far early.
The classic melon ball approach. There's another high snap. This time it is corralled as they pitch to the outside, and there is number 5 cutting back to the inside, and before finally getting that flag pulled down, it's going to be a short gain on first down. You talk about, again, different rules of this game. The first downs are actually in 20-yard increments. It's the midfield part of this field is actually the 40, and you need 20 yards to achieve a first down.
And 1.
So the Independents just outside of the 20-yard line here on second down.
4 quarters, 20 minutes a quarter.
We should also mention that part of the rules include a running clock as well. So the clock will run outside of the inner 2 minutes of the second and fourth quarters. Short run there, and it will set up again third down. And there are the rules again. Certainly some rules that we'll have to keep an eye on. It is not quite the same as what we're used to in the modern era football.
There you see the 80-yard field there, and 20-minute quarters with a running clock. The goalposts are on the goal line, which if you're familiar with kind of the history of the NFL, that's kind of how everything started. They were on the goal line and only then were pushed back to the back of the end zone as kind of the modern era moved a little bit closer. And end zone incompletion results in a touchback and extra point or drop kick. A couple different options, and they're actually worth different points as well.
This third down run to the outside, and it is a short gain on the play for Simon Herrera. And I believe that'll be enough for a first down as he's out of bounds at the 13-yard line. So it is first down, and what would in effect here be a first and goal for the Independents.
Good run, and I think we'll be talking to Simon throughout the game. He's kind of the leader of putting all this back together when you look at the Rock Island Independents and vintage football here in the Quad Cities. Someone who's done a ton of work to be able to make things like this happen, kind of get it back on the map, and also just create awareness of the first NFL game that ever took place here, and it was here in Rock Island. So Simon, definitely a big part of that.
The engine that really makes it all go. We can't wait to talk to him a little bit later. He's going to throw here on first down, and it's incomplete, right to the feet of his intended target. That was D'Angelo Allison. And it's going to be second down. And that's going to be something interesting to watch as well. How will the passing game play a factor here with that melon ball? Not anything like any of these guys are used to in this modern era football.
Yeah, it's an insanely different ball than what you're used to seeing on Sundays, Monday nights, Thursday nights, whatever in the NFL, even in college football, high school football. It is much bigger. It's rounder. It has very little grip. It's very, very tough.
Herrera still got it. Now pitch to the outside on the option, cutting back inside, and a good play defensively there by Moline to stop that run short.
Herrera flips it to Sam Greenspan.
And looking back at the history of the NFL, there's a reason that running backs really controlled the early parts, and you're seeing it a little bit so far early on. Again, that ball is just very tough to throw. And so as the modern era kind of came about, things started to evolve. The football became easier to throw. But you'll see a lot of it today, very little throwing, a lot more of the pitch, the runs. A lot really relies on that offensive line. And we'll see a lot of that today, and that pitch was definitely part of just kind of the nature of vintage football.
Yep, you'll see a lot of T formation as well, as you see here, those three backs in the backfield with Herrera, the quarterback, out of the gun. He's going to try and throw for it again. Second pass attempt. It'll go to the end zone. Back of the end zone. It is caught. And that is a touchdown for the Independents. Great start. Touchdown, Rock Island. And they get on the board on their first offensive possession of the day.
Again, not easy to throw that ball, and able to pull that one in. That was Chad Wisham. Comes through with the touchdown catch, and saw Simon Herrera, the quarterback, with enough time, found his man in the back of the end zone. A great throw. That ball is so tough to throw, but he did a great job with it there. And I think he's had some practice as well, kind of being the lead of the vintage football side of things here in the Quad Cities. Now we're going to go for the extra point. So the way it works is everyone is on one line. The ball is 20 yards out, and the other team stands right on the goal line. It is up and good. If it were to be missed, there's no way to return it or anything. It's just where everyone lines up. Worth 1 point. If you want to try a drop kick, and it goes through, it would be worth 2, where the ball hits the ground first and then goes through the uprights.
So there you go, out to a quick 7-0 score for the Rock Island Independents as they get the touchdown again. Herrera with the throw, and you mentioned how tough it is to throw that one. That was his second pass attempt. The first one kind of fell to the feet of his receiver. It almost looks like he's kind of getting reacclimated to having that different style of ball to throw. Second time's the charm as they get into the end zone.
Yeah, it has to be something you practice and get the feel for, and it's much easier to kick. We saw everyone out here in kind of the pre-games throw the ball around, trying to catch it, kicking it. Everyone's just getting used to it a little bit. Not easy to throw, not even that easy to catch. We saw a lot of bounced off the hands, but kicking, that one's one that's not too tough because it is much rounder. It's actually a little bit more like a soccer ball, actually, than a football that you're used to. So we'll see the kickoff here, and the kickoff is from the 30. Has to be a holder for it, so a little bit different than what you're used to seeing in today's football, where you can just line up on the tee and kick away.
So Greenspan, who just hit that extra point, gets this one away, high kick, and it goes into the end zone. And a touchback will send the ball out to the 20-yard line. Those are the rules here for this version of football. Ball comes out to the 20 for the Moline Universal Tractors, who will be out on offense for the first time today. It is a first down for Moline. They will start there. And we'll see the offensive strategy for the Universal Tractors. You saw a nice mix of run and pass for the Independents on its opening drive of the game. Just getting started here at Hauberg Estate Park.
You guys talked about having
on a pretty quality opening drive for the Rock Island Independents. See if the Ultimate Tractors can respond. It'll be first down.
I don't care. Whatever you guys want.
You get a nice look at even those throwback socks. Everything just so authentic in terms of throwback. A real toast to the 20s here, as it's done every year. So again, that T formation, first down, and the handoff goes to the far side of the field, and it'll be a short gain on the play. That was Cole McCarty on the carry. And second down coming up.
Just interesting how everything works with the first downs. Again, you get so used to just need 10 yards, but the 20, the 40, and then the 20 again is kind of what you're looking for. So it makes things just a little bit different, a little tougher.
Ends up being a loss of 1 on that carry there for McCarty. So second down, and now I guess you could call it 21. Second offensive play of the game for Moline. And it will be a pitch outside with a couple of lead blocks in front, trying to cut back inside, buy some time. Still on his feet, still that flag still on there before finally being ripped off. A nice effort on the play, though. That was Connor Obert.
With the moves.
It's interesting with the flags as well, is you still pretty much need to keep moving. You never know when somebody's going to go for that flag and miss it, and you can end up keep going. So even though plenty of pressure around, saw a lot of the dancing and moving around, just try to find a seam. So it's on the defense to make sure you find a good spot, grab that flag, and call it good. So here we go, third down now for Moline.
Our friend Jay Kidwell is doing the PA announcing today. He just said it looked like Obert was on the dance floor on a Saturday night with that carry. Shifty moves in the backfield.
And just trying to find a seam, and you saw him roll out to his right, nothing was there, and went back into the middle, and unfortunately for him, Rock Island had some good pressure in the middle. They were kind of going to the outside, force him back inside. So it was a great play by the independent defense to make sure nothing was able to turn into too much of a disaster out there.
We'll see if this defense can get off the field here on third down. They, again, need the 24 first. Good jump off the edge, but now looking to throw. Pressure's on. There's a lob pass and caught somehow on the near sideline. And here comes the run back right near us before being brought down just outside of the 30. Big gain on the play. Cole McCarty makes the catch and a first down for Moline.
McCarty was just able to get to the outside and pull that one in, and great throw. Is it high enough to get over the kind of first line of the defense and then drop right into the hands of McCarty? And that's what the Moline Universal Tractors were looking for, as now the ball is right at the 31. So here we go again. Now they just need to get to the 20. So just kind of the way things set up a little bit. You know, it's not a 1st and 20 each time. It's just getting to the 20-yard line. So able to get it right to the 31 on the 80-yard field.
Yeah, 80-yard field, and that was almost a 40-yard completion. Great play there. McCarty seemingly came out of nowhere and kind of fielded that like a pop-up in baseball, but it worked out for Moline, and they've got the fresh set of downs from the 31-yard line now.
Blue 8, race it hut.
Fake the toss, another pass attempt here, it looks like, as McKay looks, pumps, now heads to the sideline, and nice play once again made. As we talked about it earlier, you're going to see some plays, you're going to see some effort plays here. That was Chad Wisham, who laid out to make the tackle, and a loss of about a half a yard on that play.
And Chad Wisham was the one who caught that touchdown pass. Now he's doing it on the defensive side, coming out and snagging that flag. And so far we've seen a lot of good things from the independent defense, just not allowing anything big down the field as far as rushing. They were able to get those couple, you know, the big pass play. The Universal Tractors were, and which I think I'm going to say Universal Tractors rather than Moline, because I think Universal Tractors is just such an awesome name.
Absolutely.
I think it needs to be brought back in some form.
In some way, from somewhere, yeah.
So when you say Moline, you think, oh, the Maroons, and now it's like, yeah, we need to get those Universal Tractors out there, or Mutt, as they have on their uniforms.
Here is second down.
Blue 10.
Second and about 11. Pitch here to the outside. There's McCarty now trying to find the edge, and a nice play defensively again by the Independents. Sam Greenspan with a nice play. Once again laying out. And folks, I mean, you can see it right there just off the last few plays. This is not your garden variety flag football game. You're going to get some real deal effort out of everybody out on the field today.
And not exactly a backyard on Thanksgiving type of thing that you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of effort, and these guys, a lot of them, former football players, athletes that, you know, again, in high school that have kind of moved along a little bit, and they're out here and they're playing for pride. They want to make sure that they put on a good show, and a lot of friends and family right around here as well at Hauberg Estate. The ball just keeps moving backwards on the Universal Tractors. Outside that one big play, give a lot of credit to the independent defense.
Yeah, Moline now faces a 3rd down and long. Call it about 3rd and 13. They need to get it down to the 20. They're on the plus side of the field. Fake it, designed rollout, looking to throw downfield. That pass in and out of the hands of the intended target downfield. And again, that's just might be a symptom of, again, that big melon ball. Connor Obert was the intended target there.
Yeah, just not easy to haul that one in. And Devontae Levi, number 6 out there for the Independents. He's been a guy who's kind of been all over the field, had that kind of race down and stop McCarty as he was running down the field in that big pass play. But a lot of pressure right there, short window to get the ball in, and that ball is just so difficult to catch. Very bouncy, very big. I mean, just think about like trying to catch a soccer ball or you know, basketball in the chest. It can bounce around quite a bit.
We'll be really interested to hear what the preparation is for the players coming into this game in terms of getting used to that different style of ball. We looked at it earlier today in warm-ups. They were trying to field punts and kicks, and it's definitely not an easy thing to do, especially when that ball is coming at you as fast as it is.
We see the Universal Tractors lining up for a field goal attempt.
Field goal opportunity for Moline.
Just as in today's football, worth 3 points.
This will be from the 35-yard line. The old school goalpost as well being on the goal line of the end zone.
And might actually be changing it up a little.
Initially, we're in field goal position, and now, there we go.
Still looking like a field goal spot. Just have to do the snapping. And on these, you do have to kind of speak out that it's going to be a kick. There's no rushing it.
Got a good leg under it, and this one is no good. It was off to the left. Looked like it had the distance, just a little bit wide left, and the score remains 7-0 Independence.
It's one of the differences between the vintage football and the football you're used to is on a kick, there's no faking. There's nothing that you have to keep the defense questioning. You have to say, yep, we're going to do the kick. I think the signal is red.
Yeah.
And it kind of, again, for a kickoff, for a field goal, for a punt, whatever it is, and there's no rushing of the kicker on that. So a free kick toward the goalpost. That one just a little bit wide to the left, but had the leg. Something to keep an eye on if this game remains close. And again, those kind of tweaks that you see between the regular football that we all know and love, and something like this, very, very similar, but just the evolution of the game that has kind of moved this way, and then also the rules that are meant to keep this safe and no hard hitting, no injuries out there, and just meant to be a fun time. But as we've seen, very, very competitive.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so fun too. They're doing it with fun and safety in mind, but the competitiveness is still there, and that much is obvious already as we inch closer to the end of the first quarter. 7-0 Independence. They've got the ball, and Herrera pitches it outside. And switching direction, nice play there. Try to now make some more out of it across midfield, and now still on his feet, cutting back inside before finally getting the flag ripped off at the 20-yard line. What a play. That was Devontae Levi, and we've already called his name a couple of times in this game. Has a great run there and a first down for the Independents.
Showed a lot of that speed that he had playing as a defensive back when he stopped the long pass play from going any further. And there, move off to the left. Nothing was there, and just took it back to the right side, a ton of speed. And there you see the athleticism that a lot of these players have. Again, they might be past their college time and still trying to find ways to be active in the community, do some different things, and this is one opportunity for a lot of these local players.
Yeah, great way to do that today. Be active in the community, preserve the history of the community as well. Run right up the middle, and a short gain on the play for D'Angelo Allison. It will be second down. We are inside of a minute to go here in the first quarter. It is a running clock, as we mentioned earlier. Running clock until the last 2 minutes.
And goal from the 19. Once they're inside the
so from the 19-yard line, it'll be second down for the Independents. Already out to that 7-0 lead, looking to add on to it.
And we'll see if they go back to throwing the ball, as it worked very well on that first touchdown.
Yep,
tough to do, but we've seen it work so far for the Independents.
2 attempts, and this might be the third. Herrera will throw it outside, and that pass is caught. Again, nicely done, and the catch made there by Sam Greenspan. Short gain on the play, and it will set up third down. And spotted at the 15-yard line. And with that, the first quarter will come to an end. Rock Island Independence lead at 7-0, and they are on the move again. They'll face a third down when you return to the Vintage Football game. Welcome back to the Vintage Football game from Hauberg Estate Park in Rock Island. 7-0. The Independents lead the Moline Universal Tractors. Alongside Steve Campbell, I'm Redrick Terry. Thanks for joining us today on this very fun day. And that's the MC of fun so far here at Hauberg Estate, Mr. Jay Kidwell.
I like the MC of fun. We're going to have to use that for Jay a few times. Somebody that we know well. He was my boss for a couple of years, technically, when I worked at WHBF, sports director. I was a weekend sports director, and now that's your home over there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Somebody you know well with Jay.
Well known and very well liked in the community, and for very good reason. We're glad to have him today, and we're glad that you're joining us today. It is 7-0. Again, the Independents had the lead on the touchdown throw in that first quarter. How about that? A pass for the first score of the game. Maybe not expecting that, but that's what we've gotten so far. And now we've got a third down from just outside the 10-yard line.
And we'll see if they go right back to it. Looks like, about 13 or so yards away from the end zone. Now on the short side of the field over here on the near side, so they're going to have a lot of room to work on the far side, and we've seen Simon Herrera kind of leading the way at quarterback, and we hope to speak with him here shortly and get a good rundown of kind of everything that goes into this.
He's got it here on this third down, trying to get to the outside, and a great play defensively in the backfield.
Nice defensive stop,
as that will be fourth down after the play made there. That was John Ossoff.
Right there with the big takedown.
And that will set up a fourth down, and we'll see what the decision is here for the Independents. Want to kick the 3 or go for it?
We saw on the one kickoff that we had for Rock Island, able to put plenty of air under it, get it for a touchback. So we'll see, what they do here. Obviously, plenty of legs on that team to be able to kick.
Fourth down from the 19.
Looks like we're going to see them go for it here on fourth down. Nope, actually they are going to go for the field goal.
We're going to get a field goal try here. Field goal try for the Independents, and Sam Greenspan, who's had a busy game so far, he will attempt it. The kick from the 19, good hold, and the kick on the way, and right through. There's our first field goal of the afternoon. Sam Greenspan makes it 10-0 Independence.
Good boot, plenty of leg behind that one. That one could have gone a lot further than just from where the kick was from. And again, we talked about how bouncy that ball is, and just adds a lot to it.
No doubt about it. That's certainly not an easy task. But Greenspan certainly made it look easy with that nice kick. Independents lead it by 10. And we're already getting some easy little drawing there between the two teams. It's like we talked about. This is a flag football game, an exhibition game, but they care about it. They're in it. It's physical, it's competitive, and it's exactly what we like to see when you're talking about paying tribute to the great history of the NFL here in Rock Island. That's a good kickoff there, and it goes out. I believe that was a touchback. So that should send the ball out to the 20. Into the second quarter now with a 10-0 score for the Independents, and Moline, the ultimate Tractors, will come out and try and get on the board here offensively. After the touchback, the ball comes out to the 20-yard line. So Moline's offensive attack on its opening drive, certainly a lot more run heavy. They have that one big pass play that's put them in field goal range. They were unable to hit the field goal on their opening possession of the contest, so this being their second offensive possession of the day. And down 2 scores. So here we go, first down for the Universal Tractors. Snap to the quarterback, McKay looking to throw. He's got all kinds of time. Now rolls out to the far sideline and runs with it. Nice run by the quarterback, McKay. Out of bounds, out across the 30. We'll see where the officials spot it, right at about the 34-yard line. So it'll be second down and 6. Again, they need to get to the 40 for the first down. The first downs, if you're just joining us, marked at each 20-yard line and the 40-yard line, which is midfield in this game. The 80-yard field. You see, again, the authenticity of this game, even the down markers, also authentic as it was back in the 1920s. Here's second down and 6. Quick handoff on the outside, and a nice run out across the 40. That should be a first down.
That was Brandon Fouch, late arrival to the Moline team. Some fresh legs able to get out there, and nice run for him. Picks up the first down.
And Simon, when you need a breather, MediaCom would love to talk to you on TV.
So it's first down and 10 as Moline once again works the ball into opponent territory. There's a look at David Sebin. He is the owner of the Independence today, and as you can see, he is dressed for the part, top hat and all, looking sharp over there on the sideline.
Type of look you expect to see from an owner?
Absolutely. He looks the part, absolutely, as the handoff once again goes to Fouch, and he's brought down inside the 30-yard line. Hope to speak with him at some point as well. Again, just so many of these people that do so much to put this great game on. It will be second down for Moline.
We have a special guest joining us now. That's Simon Herrera. And thanks for joining us. I know you're out of breath. You've been playing hard out there.
Oh, yeah. We got just enough for 1 or 2 subs, but it's a blast. That's why we do it here. Just out there playing old school football, having fun.
10-0 lead. Was that the plan coming in? Or I should say, is there really a plan out here?
Wide open deep.
Just a lot of
wide
fun.
open deep. Oh, what a tip.
That's a great play out there in the secondary.
Good break up there by Sam, on Sam.
That's the type of breakup you want to see out there. And I know, Simon, we've looked at everything. We've talked about it a couple of years ago. When we were out here, we kind of went through a lot of it with you. But this is such a unique thing. How have you kind of brought it to life here in the Quad Cities, and what does it mean to have this continuing year after year?
Well, mainly, I mean, just, I started doing research back in the late, 2007 and 8, and I just, found out there was a team in the NFL in the Quad Cities, and just nobody ever talked about it. So I just did a ton of research, and, I always thought, man, it would be so cool to see a game down at Douglas Park. I wish I could travel back in time and see that. And Chris Zimmerman of Moline approached me and said, how about we get a game together, and he was thinking T-shirts and just go out there for fun, but I got him to buy in to let's get jerseys and let's get yard markers and a full field and let's come up with some rules. And I wanted to make the game as authentic as I could, so that's why we're using the melon football. That's really hard to throw very accurately without much loft over more than like 10-15 yards, so kind of forces the teams to adapt to the strategy back then. And from the sideline, my goal was for it to look like a game would look back then in the park. And we got these great parks surrounded by these houses that are, back from that era. So it looks really cool when we get it all together.
That's an interesting part, kind of being here in the middle of Rock Island. This area, fairly similar to probably back then. Obviously, a few updates here and there, but it is in a neighborhood. It's not in a factory area or anything like that. This is pretty much what you'd expect if you look back at football in the Quad Cities in the 1920s.
Yep. And back then, if you look at some of the pictures of Douglas Park, you can see some of the same houses there that are there today. So it is literally the same houses looking in the park that were there when they played. So perfect setting.
First down all the way down to about
how does something like this come about, and how do you get people to buy in to come out here and play vintage football and not, it's not Sandlot, it's not, trying to be a semi-pro league. It's something totally different. How do you get other individuals, guys out here?
A lot of phone calls, messages, and texts. But the first year was really hard. We owe Chris for that. We didn't have any money. We had to get jerseys and everything. The Rock Island Parks wasn't involved yet, so we actually had people pay $100 to play, and then they got to keep the jersey. So, by paying the money, they were invested, and then they got a cool jersey. Now Rock Island Parks has helped us out by getting a set of jerseys for each team, and it's just guys that love to play football. They'd be playing out somewhere else maybe if they weren't here. And even the semi-pro guys we have out here, I think they practiced yesterday. They're just with their own team, but they want to come back out here and keep in football shape and try something new. Open the end zone.
That ball.
Up, touchdown.
Catch in the end zone for the touchdown.
First touchdown of the game for Moline. And you were mentioning it. You already threw a touchdown here in this game. How tough is that ball to throw? And did you have to do some research back to how they used to do it back in the 1920s?
Well, just reading through the game articles, you would see run left, run center, run right, and back then it was kind of a sign of weakness if you had to throw it as more like a desperation thing. So you read through the game articles, and they're just running the ball. So that's why I wanted to use that ball. Like I said, it's hard to throw. So if there's somebody in front of you, it's really hard to loft it over them and get it in front of the safety. So if there's anyone in front of you, you might as well not throw it. And the one I threw in the end zone was a little bit of a Hail Mary, but luckily there was no safety back there, and kind of the same right there on that play. But
it certainly worked out for you. What goes into preparing to play in a game like this? The extra point
well, we get
good.
just all the emails with the parks and everybody, and the house here, the Hauberg house, just getting everything set up. We need somebody. David Driscoll comes out here, and Rock Island Parks helped this time because he's out, but just getting people to set up the field. We got people taking the jerseys home and washing them. We got to buy socks, just a whole bunch of stuff, and then just communication with all the players, and send it out to the press. And then you guys are helping out our game. That was awesome. The 2019 game. I've watched that. Skipped through it several times and watched some plays. So yeah, just a lot of people involved in the community, and that's what it takes. But they all like it and think it's cool, so they keep coming out.
Yeah, we see a lot of people out here today. What is the reaction that you've gotten from the community that you've heard about how people enjoy this event here?
Well, I remember the first game that stands out because people were kind of in shock. They're like, where'd you get these guys? Are they actors? Are they a traveling group or something? I was like, no, we came out here. We practiced for about an hour and a half, and we're playing a real football game just by those rules, So that was a great compliment that they thought it was some professional actors or traveling team that we brought in to, set up a game. So.
You're putting on a great show here today, and a good game going back and forth a little bit. When you were doing all your research to kind of bring things together, what did you hear from people or learn about the original Rock Island Independence that really made you say, I want to get this going and kind of start to make people aware that this is a thing in our community?
The first thing that was cool was, it started in like 1901, and basically it was just like put out an ad in the newspaper, who wants to play. So it was like this, like these guys, just who wants to play in the game. Let's get a team going, and if we lose the first couple and no one shows up, then they would just fold for the season. So there was a lot of neighborhood teams around here, and they would just get together and play for the love of the game, and maybe they started charging admission at some point, but that's what they did. And then what fascinated me was, how did the little local guys that just played in the neighborhood, how did they get to the NFL, right? That's the big story. So just every year they got a little better. They got a owner, Walter Flanagan, who came in the teens and was really promoting and bringing in outside talent, ex-college players and stuff. So he was signing bigger and bigger players. And in 1919, they were 10-1 and challenged Canton Bulldogs and Jim Thorpe to a game for the championship. And Jim Thorpe said his team had disbanded for the season, so the game didn't happen. But the good thing was, when it came time, they were trying to find the best teams in the country. They all recognized Rock Island was one. So just a little neighborhood team getting to the NFL, and the fact that the Quad Cities had a team in the NFL, a lot of people don't know. It's just an amazing story.
Yeah, and the first NFL game, as we've talked about, was right here in the Quad Cities in Rock Island over at Douglas Park, which we've mentioned a little bit. And I think it's so interesting to always play the what-if game. If the Independents had never left the NFL, if things had not moved around a little bit, could they have been today's Green Bay Packers? I mean, it's always interesting out there. I'm sure somebody, a historian like you've kind of played that game a few times as well.
Yeah, that's the heartbreaking story. You know how it ends in the end, so you just gotta, that's part of the research and the history. But yeah, imagine if somebody could have, and you look through the articles, there's people that tried to form like a committee that would run it. It's a little bit like Green Bay, but they didn't have quite the organization, and they struggled a little bit with attendance sometimes. I think that's why they jumped to the Red Grange League, trying, because he was pulling in 20,000 when they were pulling in like 6 maybe. So they were just trying to stay alive by jumping to that league, and it didn't work out. And the NFL in 1927 didn't allow them back, but they also cut a lot of other smaller teams. So it wasn't necessarily because they left, they didn't get back in, but it sure didn't help.
Yeah, it was kind of the start of the big cities, I guess, kind of taking over professional sports. And it's always so fascinating, too, because you see so much of those movements in semi-pro, minor leagues, whatever it is, where you try to follow for the money, for the attendance or something like that, and to look back and say that was happening in the 1920s. It was already going on, and it's a thing that continues to be today, where everyone's still looking for what is that next best opportunity, especially if you aren't in one of those premier leagues. And it's so interesting that the Quad Cities has kind of a little bit of a hand in that.
Yeah, and it's good that NFL is just going back. The NFL still recognized the area. They came here for the draft in 2019 and held a draft event here. That was cool to be a part of, and shows that people recognize what we're doing, and there's some value in it for everyone to come out and learn about the history.
Don't want to put you on the spot too much, but what do you see from the independents out here now that you've stepped off the field for a little bit?
I'm ready to get back in there. We got Estlin out there. He's a first-time player, so I just threw him in at quarterback. He took about 5 snaps in the practice, so so far we haven't turned it over, so that's good.
Well, we don't want to sabotage things too much. Simon, we want to let you get back out there, but Frederick, anything else to check in with? I know we've had a lot of conversations throughout this game. It's so interesting that we're out here. What else?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll let you get back to the game. Just quickly, obviously this event has already evolved so much in the short time that it's been around. What's the future in your mind of the vintage football game in Rock Island?
Well, the good thing is I have a lot of players. We've had probably 50, 60 different players for each team play. So we've got a big group of people, and we just see who's available and who wants to play. Some people get a little older, get injuries, and can't come back. But we want to keep playing at this field and Douglas and just keep growing it. I think some people have brought up, I've always brought up the Field of Dreams games that you saw, the MLB. People said, people don't know about Rock Island. What if we get like the NFL to recognize one of these fields and come out and do a scrimmage or a practice or something out here? That would be the ultimate. So I think my team's calling me back.
I think so too.
Get out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and this has been such an interesting game already to look at and talk about. And I think that's interesting what he mentioned with the Field of Dreams game going on in Dyersville in August between the White Sox and the Yankees, and come back next year between the Cubs and the Reds. How cool would it be if the NFL did something, and even if obviously it wouldn't be probably a major game, but something with a scrimmage, a practice, a preseason game? That would be really cool for the area, for sure.
Yeah, and I think those talks really started heating up after you saw that Field of Dreams game. Meanwhile, look at this punt return, and it ends up being an actual tackle inside the 20-yard line. Not quite exactly what you wanted to see there, but again, we mentioned, and we just talked about it with Simon, there are a lot of these guys out here that are actual athletes. Old habits die hard, right?
Yeah, Ethan Blaze, number 9 out there for Rock Island. I think he was trying to get the flag, and his arms just kind of wrapped around in collision out there. Not exactly the hard-hitting tackle that you saw Friday Night Football out there in the high schools. There you see college or the NFL, but yeah, that's a penalty. I think they're going to let that one go, as it was very inadvertent. But typically, if there's a tackle out here, that's going to be a 15-yard penalty. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's cool to kind of bring those things back to life in small areas that have happened before, and a very, very unique situation out here. And like you said, I think a lot of those conversations might be going on now after what was experienced out in Dyersville.
Yeah, and the success of that. I mean, what a magical night that was. Run out to the near side. It's a short gain for Connor Obert. The score, by the way, is 10-6. As we were talking to Simon, we had that touchdown for Moline. The Universal Tractors got on the board. They missed the extra point. It's 10-6. As you just heard from our friend Jay, 2 minutes left in the second quarter of play.
And I think it's so interesting that a lot of people don't know the history of the independents, and it was something I did. I'm not originally from the Quad Cities, came out here for college, but it was a few years into my time in the Quad Cities before I really learned that the first NFL game was here. And you're a native of the Quad Cities. Is that something that you were aware of at all?
And even then, yeah. I mean, even for a lot of the natives, it really isn't something that is nearly known enough. And I think, again, as you mentioned, with more things like the Field of Dreams and the draft that came here not that long ago, we're starting to get some of that history back where it belongs, which is at the forefront of the history of these small areas. As that pass was incomplete in the end zone, it'll be third down. But it's really, that's what I wanted to ask Simon. What's the future of this event, because we're seeing more of these historic places that aren't necessarily the Chicagos, the New Yorks, these big markets. A lot of the beginnings of these sports leagues have very humble, small beginnings in smaller places. So hopefully we can see some of that history kind of be put back up to the forefront like it should be.
And you even see it in some of the other leagues. The NBA did something, I believe, at Hinkle Fieldhouse with Butler, and kind of throwback to the Hoosiers side of things. You know, at one point, again, it's just interesting the way you start to take the big time sports and start to kind of draw them back a little bit away from the huge stadiums and start to say, what are the opportunities available in these areas that have such a history? And even looking at what baseball has done in Williamsport with the one game a year out in Williamsport between major league teams, and just opens up those conversations. And the draft was something that was very cool here. Nobody really knew what to expect, but it ended up being a day that, you know, the Quad Cities, and it was over at Augustana College, was able to become part of a little national focus. And what the NFL did just to kind of draw these smaller areas back into the history, it's important to remember that history. And I think that's something that these leagues focused on getting bigger, and now they're starting to say, what can we do to kind of draw some people back in? And this is a great example of what's going on in those areas, just to see in case it can start to kind of come back a little bit.
Yeah, truly just the beginning. At least it seems like when it comes to these these tributes that are being paid to really the beginnings of lots of these sports leagues, and hopefully that can stay the same for a time to come. Meanwhile, here is 4th down for the Universal Tractors, and we'll see what they do here. A high snap over the head, so the play is dead at that point, and Moline will come away empty-handed.
Not what you want on 4th down, when a high snap can end up being the end of the drive. And the Universal Tractors had something else in mind. Everyone moving right on the snap except for a little too high. And that is the end of the first half.
First half comes to an end on that note. The score 10-6. The Independents have the 4-point lead over the Moline Universal Tractors. We'll step out, come right back after this on MC22. Back here at Hauberg Estate Park, Rock Island, Illinois. Fun game so far, 10-6. Very competitive game so far. The Rock Island Independents lead the Moline Universal Tractors by that 4-point score. Alongside Steve Campbell, I'm Redrick Terry. And again, this is just the game is good enough here, but we've got so much going on around this event and here at Hauberg Estates Park. We're going to check back in with Natalie and see what else she learned about today's event.
I'm actually working on a book on the history of Rock Island High School football, and after they graduated, a lot of them immediately played for the Independents. And Rock Island High School used to have an alumni game where they would play the graduates, and a lot of times the guys were professional football players. And needless to say, depending on who was on the team, the older guys tended to win a little more.
Though the event was on a smaller scale this year due to COVID-19 protocols, the goal was still the same: educating the community. Part of educating was including local kids taking part in a football clinic to show how much the game has developed over the past century.
It's just fun seeing the guys come out here and have fun. Great seeing the little kids here today, you know, learning and having fun with the high school players. And I just love the history of this place.
So, Steve, in the past, this game has been held in Douglas Park, which obviously has rich ties to all different sorts of pro and semi-pro sports over the last century.
Yeah, it was originally named Island City Park, and it opened in 1905. Then in 1917, the park's name changed to Douglas Park after U.S. Senator Stephen Douglas. Now, besides being the home of the Independents, Douglas Park was also home to a minor league baseball team, the Rock Island Islanders. And one final note, the first college football game between Iowa and Illinois, yes, the Illini and the Hawkeyes, was actually played at Douglas Park in 1899. So now let's fast forward to today. Douglas Park has undergone major renovations. We caught up with the Rock Island Parks and Rec during those renovations, and here's what they had to say at the time.
It's important for our community to bring Douglas Park back to life because of the history here in Rock Island. Not only with the NFL, but with the long history with horse racing, fast pitch softball.
This was the hub, this was the entertainment hub of Rock Island, where people would come down, see a football game, see a baseball game. You know, it was just, the stands were packed. It was the place to be. And, you know, it's really neat to kind of bring that history back here to Douglas Park and what's going on right now.
All the groups involved have been, obviously, the Rock Island Parks and Recreation Department, the City of Rock Island, the City Council, the Friends of Douglas Park, the Vintage Football program, and the community, not only in the west corridor of Rock Island, but all of the Quad Cities has been behind this project.
This has been a community embracing the history of what this park is, not just to Rock Island, but really to the NFL. In its very early days in the founding.
Without our community and without the Friends of Douglas Park, a lot of these renovations would not be happening right now.
Over the past 3.5 years, we've raised over $1.5 million to put into this project. No tax dollars. It's been done through donations, fundraising, grants, HUD money, block grant money, things of that nature. We have a number of high school baseball games that go on here, semi-pro 76ers baseball games that go on, and other activities that people can walk to, ride their bikes to, and come down and enjoy, and they're free. And currently, a youth ball field is being constructed. It's going to match this larger ball field, just on a smaller scale. And we have a multi-use sport field that's being developed now for baseball, softball, football, and soccer.
We do play this vintage football game here at Douglas Park on the main baseball field. What's exciting and what's happening in the future is we are building multi-purpose fields. So this football game will actually be able to be played on an actual football field and not on the outfield of our main diamond here at Douglas Park. So it's going to be really neat to kind of see how this fits in down here at the park using that multi-purpose field. It'll be a complete lit field for at night too. So if we want to play a night game next year, we can do that as well.
When I think of where the park was when we started this, it needed a good facelift. You know, I think other priorities, and we kind of lost track of the history, things like that. And when I think of where it's at now, wow, I mean, the turf systems and the grass and the lights and the playground equipment and everything, it feels like a great park.
If everything goes according to plan, obviously we can't control the weather. We would like to get those renovations completed this year. They take time to grow in, so we'd like to start programming probably the fall of 2020. Park and recreation in Rock Island, we really pride ourselves on our core values, and sports are important, but what's even more important is growing positive, productive youth in our community, and this is really gonna hit home with that.
Yeah, a lot of work goes into making this event as great as it is year in and year out, and we are glad to see its return. Well, this version has been pretty entertaining so far. 10-6 is the halftime score. Independents have the lead. The second half comes your way next on MC22. We are just about ready for quarter number 3 from Hauberg Estate Park here in Rock Island. Vintage football game underway, and it's been a good one so far. 10-6 the score. The Rock Island Independents, off the strength of a touchdown throw in that first half and a field goal, have the 4-point lead over the Moline Universal Tractors, and it will be Moline to get the ball starting right out of the half. And here comes the run back outside the 20, and now up the far sideline. Good run back, cut back across midfield, and that's where the flag is ripped off. So that was Brandon Fouch on the return. Fouch, number 10 for the Moline Universal Tractors, and that's a good way to start the second half. Down by 4, but now in a good spot. They mark him right just short of midfield, so right at about the 39-yard line. So it's first down now for Moline. You see the quarterback, Joe McKay, have that touchdown throw in the second quarter.
In for a minute, and then we'll just ask you questions.
As they were unable to convert on the extra point, so that made it 10-6, which is where we stand right now. The Independents scoring the first 10 points of the ball game. Moline getting that touchdown right before the half, and they have that turnover via the botched snap to end it. They were in position for another score right before halftime. Weren't able to get it. First down carry here, cut back through the middle, and a nice run on the play. That's Connor Obert inside the 35 and spotted right at about the 34-yard line.
And the Universal Tractors on the move, and with that we have another guest joining us, and that is David Sieben. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Perfect, and he is the owner of the Rock Island Independents. Thanks so much for joining us here for a little bit. And what have been your impressions so far of this day out here right now?
I'm very impressed with them. They look a lot better than they did last game on September 11th, and I told them if they didn't win this game, I was going to sell the team. So.
no pressure
and move them to
all.
Arlington.
Off to Arlington Heights, exactly. It's good play to the outside as the quarterback, Joe McKay, trying to make something happen there for Moline. So far, a good start. What are you liking out of the team so far today for the Independents?
We've got a very good running game today, and I'm very impressed with it. We may have to dole out some bonuses afterwards. So,
I want to ask you, this is something that is so unique, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier. We were going through things with Simon, but how do you get involved in something like this?
Simon and I became friends, a number of years ago because of the Independence game here, and he asked me if I take pictures during the game. I love photography, so the first however many years I took all the action shots and the team photos after the game, and then this year he says, "How would you like to be the team owner?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And I'm still taking photos of the game as well. So.
You didn't ask him what goes into being the owner before you committed?
Yeah, he didn't give me any cash, so I'm kind of disappointed in that. But no, it's just a lot of fun. I love the history of the Independence and love football, and I'm really glad that he puts this on every year for the community.
Besides being the official team photographer, what other duties do you have as the official owner of the Independence?
Not very much. I cheer the team on. I passed out gum to the fans beforehand, like Wrigley used to do. So I just come out and enjoy an afternoon of old-time football, even though it is flags.
Absolutely, yeah. And we hear there's plenty of history going on, and you're writing a book. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm writing several books simultaneously.
Okay.
The one book that I'm almost done with is a book on the life of Solomon Butler, and we've talked about him before, and it's very close to being done. He was a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal. Graduated from Rock Island High School in 1915, played for the Independents in 1923 for 3 games, never lived in the community. He commuted from Chicago every weekend, and then after his 3 games with the Indies, he got traded to Hammond, played in a number of early NFL teams, and then unfortunately ended his NFL career with the Canton Bulldogs. So on a very sour note, actually. So
got our first deep ball attempt there for the Universal Tractors, and it ends up being an interception in the end zone. It was picked off by Devontae Levi. How about that? Off the deflection, Levi comes away with the interception. And the takeaway there for the Rock Island Independents. So there you go, another good play, another good bonus on the way there.
You betcha. We'll pay him handsomely.
Exactly. David, like I said, we've talked before about the history of this game, and then there's so much of it, and a lot of that is something that you're interested in. How important is it to do things like this to keep the history of the game, especially when it comes to Rock Island, alive for everybody?
It's very important. I know the guys have a blast doing it. Simon, puts this on remotely from Nashville, and he probably does 95% of it, from down there, and has some help up here, obviously. But no, it's very important to keep the history of the Independence alive, and need to get more community involvement, but that'll come.
An event going on out here today, kind of like this. Is that kind of the idea of community involvement? Again, not just a singular game, but being able to combine a game like this with an event kind of going on as well?
Yeah, it was a perfect match. Football, the Oktoberfest here at the beautiful Hauberg Estate, and just the weather's decent, although it's starting to sprinkle right now. But yeah, it's just a wonderful afternoon for this.
When did you learn about the history of the Independence? Was it something that you've been aware of for a long time? I know we've discussed a little bit that it's something that really isn't talked a ton about, but once you start to dive deep into it, it's super cool and super unique about that it's right here in Rock Island.
There's a lot of football history here, and a lot of people, are not aware of it. I mean, you mentioned Douglas Park, and people automatically think of, all the World Softball, tournaments that were there and baseball tournaments, but very few people know that, the very first NFL game was played here, and, the great old wooden bleachers and grandstands that were there up until the 40s when the city tore them down, and it was originally called Island City Park, and then they changed it to Douglas in honor of Stephen Douglas, which I haven't quite figured out why, but okay.
It was, and I guess the rest is history.
Yes.
When you start getting like that, and I do think it's interesting how we can keep this going, keep the history going at an event like this, but there is still a lot of history. If you go to the NFL Hall, or the Pro Football Hall of Fame, in Canton, there are players in the Hall of Fame who are connected to the Independents. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, and their Hall of Fame, they have a list of all the different teams that were in the NFL, and it's so cool to see before the Packers came about, kind of in their long line of everything, the Rock Island Independents are there. And it's so interesting, that able to keep that history alive. And is that what a lot of this is just trying to keep that history moving in that direction?
Yeah, just keeping the history of this former NFL team alive. Showing the community that, hey, we had an NFL team here. It was the reason they were called the Independents, because they were independent of a sponsor. I mean, they didn't have, like Green Bay had, the packing companies there as their sponsor, and all these teams back then had, corporate sponsors, and Independents were just kind of community owned and a team owner owned, and it's just fun to keep that history, in the forefront.
I always like to ask this to you, David, because you have your hand in so much of this history. How do you think we keep that history alive ongoing? Obviously, we have great events like the vintage football game. How do we keep that history alive for people to learn about for years to come?
Well, we need to keep doing this, and thanks to you guys for televising this and showing the community that, hey, that this event is going on. Simon and I have talked about possibly doing a book on the history of the Independents, because there isn't one, and I think it'd be a fascinating story to tell. And then that would show the community, hey, this was a real team. They played real football. They played against some of the biggest names in the country back then. George Hallis, Curly Lambeau, Duke Slater played for the Independents. In fact, he was just inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, and I was at the Hall of Fame this summer and had to take a picture of him just because of what he meant to the game. Not just the Independents, but just the game of football. Played both ways. I think he only missed 2 games in his entire career. Played up the river at Clinton, Iowa. Was on 2 state championship teams. Phenomenal athlete. Wow, he doesn't get enough credit.
And looking at that name as well, I think the Iowa Hawkeyes agreed, and that's why they renamed their field this year, Duke Slater Field, because it was kind of that thing. They had a residence hall named for him, but it doesn't really do justice for the impact that he had around
exactly
here. So that's a great addition, and again, somebody who probably, some people probably get lost, the name gets lost in the history, but he was such a phenomenal player and did so much from Clinton down to Rock Island, obviously going all the way to Canton, Ohio, and to Iowa City. And what does it mean to have the Independent name connected to his legacy as well?
Oh, that's huge for this team. Just because of what he did. One of the first black players in the NFL back then. First black lineman, if I remember right, first black lineman, and I remember reading the story where his dad told him, if you're going to play, you have the option of wearing a helmet or shoes, because we can't afford both. And he picked shoes, and he played without a helmet in high school. That's just crazy.
For Moline.
Incredible stuff. While we were talking there, we had an incompletion in the end zone, which, of course, equates to a turnover. So Rock Island has the ball once again, and they're still up 10-6. David, when you have so much of a hand in keeping the history alive, letting people know about it, what does it mean to have events like this that really put that history on showcase for everybody to see?
Oh, it's phenomenal to bring it to life, even though it's a flag football game. I mean, they're playing with authentic jerseys, the authentic ball, the rules, the size of the field. The only thing missing is the tackling, and some of the guys even ask, "Can we tackle?" No, you can't. This is just for fun.
Gotta have some
Nobody's getting paid
around this.
But no, it's important just to keep this alive, and I hope Simon keeps doing it for years and years and years, and we're out here in wheelchairs, putting on this event, in the distant future.
And what do you see as that future? We asked Simon about it. I should say, Frederick asked Simon about it. Great question. What do you see as the future of something like this and of keeping the independent name alive?
Just by participating in this game every year or twice a year, or however many times he wants to put it on. Hopefully eventually the book coming out will spur a lot of more interest in it.
There's a nice pass to the outside, and a good play there by the Independents.
And then the book that I'm writing on Saul Butler, he had just a very small piece of the history of the Independents, but it was so important. I mean, the impact he had just in the 3 games he played for him is just huge. And the thing I love the most is the week before he joined the team, the Rock Island Argus would publicize, Johnny Armstrong's coming to the team, this player's coming to the team. Never once said Butler was coming to the team. He just showed up, and the crowd, from my research, shows the crowd was just in awe because they knew who he was from his track and field days, and here he comes to Rock Island to play football, and against the Bears of all teams, his very first NFL game.
Yeah, truly incredible piece of history. Try and quantify it for us if you can. All the research that it takes. Do you even have a number of the amount of hours?
No.
No. I mean, it has to be countless at this point, right?
It's countless. I mean, it's probably been at least 4 years, I think, that I've been doing the research on him. And when I thought I was almost done, I would find more and more. And I'm glad I didn't stop when I did, because the things that I found just made him not larger than life, but it humanized him. He was never. He was never a boastful player. I mean, he wasn't like, a lot of the current NFL, NBA, MLB players, they stand on this pedestal, and think that they're larger than life, and some of them are. But he was never that way. He was a very humble individual, and just let his sports speak for themselves.
Yeah, and doing that research and discovering those things about those players that we wouldn't know about otherwise. So very important. We very much look forward to your book and everything that you've got going on. David, thanks so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
That's David Sieben. He is the Rock Island Independence owner. We are always glad to speak with him. Just a wealth of history and knowledge that comes from David. Meanwhile, here, a steady rain has started to fall here at Hauberg Estates Park, and that might have played a part in what you just saw with that ball being fumbled in the backfield.
Yeah. Is that adding a little extra element to today's game? Not that rain adds too much vintage to it, but just adds another element to that ball, especially as we've talked how tough it is to hold on to it in general, and then you start adding the rain onto it, and it's just makes for an interesting atmosphere here today as these players really throwing it back and now playing through a little bit of a rainstorm as well.
It's 4th down and about 5. We'll see what Herrera does. Toss back over here to Levi as he cuts back on the inside, and he's going to have the first down and then some, out of bounds at about the 30-yard line. So they go for it on 4th down. It's Levi picking it up. First down, Independence, as their drive stays alive.
When you have an athlete out there like Levi, just get him the ball and let him work. And you saw the nifty footwork and the cut back and the speed getting to the outside, picking up that first down. And here we have pretty much a traditional first down and 10, just the way it all worked out. The ball right at the 30. Need to get to that 20-yard line to pick up another first down.
As we're into the third quarter here. First down, Independence. There's Herrera, and he'll look to throw here. Pumps one way, pulls it down. Pressure's coming from the opposite side. And Herrera just gets it away, incomplete. And it'll be second down. Good coverage downfield by the Universal Tractors. And Cole McCarty was providing the pressure on Herrera. Almost came in for the sack.
Thought he had the sack, but just slightly behind the ball getting tossed away there by Herrera.
So it'll be second down from the 30-yard line, second down and 10. And again, you saw another one of those hustle plays. McCarty laying out, trying to get that sack. Just came up just short, very close, as you mentioned.
Another area where the flags play a little bit of a role in this. Obviously, you can't tackle. You have to be a little more calculated with when you're going to attempt to snag that flag away and make sure it's in the right spot for you to get it.
Rain coming down pretty steady now. Now on this second down. Handoff, and the backfield tackle is made. Nicely done. It'll be third down after a nice play by the defense of the Universal Tractors and Milton Wells, who comes back there and makes the play.
Yeah, Milton was right in the backfield, and he tore that flag off there and raised it up like a trophy. He knew that he had it, and that was a big play for the Universal Tractors right there. And now the wind starts to pick up a little bit. So now the rain starts to move diagonally a little bit. Going to make it even tougher to throw that ball now with rain and some wind.
And a third and long here for the Independents. Herrera will throw it. Looking one way, pulling down. Now he'll take off. Still going up the middle and brought down, the flag brought down just inside the 30-yard line. So we'll get the fourth down play here, and we'll see what the call will be for Rock Island.
Ideally a place maybe you want to try that field goal, but with the rain and the wind, again, just adds a little extra element to just kicking a football through the uprights. Not easy to begin with, and then you add that, but it looks like they are going to go for it here, because they do need to get to the 20.
On the plus side of the field here, and now
it looks like we are going to kick.
So they're going to try and kick.
Line up the tee, and they call out red, and that's for a kick.
So Sam Greenspan made one earlier on the opposite side of the field. He'll try this one with the rain and the wind that he's fighting against this time, and this one comes off to the left and no good.
Looked like it had easily had the distance, and it was going right for the uprights, and then quickly took a left turn right before it. Close, but that'll keep our score right where it is.
Yep, 10-6 is the score, as it was coming into the half. We've had back and forth. The offenses have been moving the ball here in this third quarter, but defense really stepping up when it gets to deep into opponent territory. And in fact, that does take us to the end of quarter number 3. Independents lead at 10-6. The fourth quarter of the vintage football game comes your way next on MC22. All right, here we go. Fourth quarter, vintage football game. Hauberg Estate's Park in Rock Island. 10-6. The Independents have a 4-point lead over the Moline Universal Tractors. Alongside Steve Campbell, I'm Redrick Terry. Thanks for joining us on this, what has become a bit of a rainy Saturday afternoon here in Rock Island. The element's going to be playing a part here for the remainder of the day, Steve.
Yeah, everything's a little bit wet after that shower came through. It looks like it's starting to clear up a little bit, but wind has been coming in and out. But yeah, the ground's a little wet now. The ball that's already tough to hold on to, going to get a little bit tougher as we see a toss back to the quarterback.
Toss back to McKay, and he'll look to make some moves and a nice spin, but a good tackle out across the 30. And that play will be marked dead at about the 33-yard line.
Seen both teams start to add a little trickery to the playbook the last, since halftime. Both teams doing a little run one way, back to the quarterback or halfback passes, whatever it is. So we've seen a few things as they start to move it a little bit away from just the run up the middle, run to the outside type of thing, or quarterbacks trying to throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah, it could be that little modern twist to the way football was played, that misdirection. We see a lot of that. As you mentioned, some of the running backs then throwing the ball. That very interesting to see some of the little taste of modern football we get here, with overall the theme, of course, being vintage football from the 20s. McKay off the fake will look to throw for it. Rolls far side, then lofts one, a deep ball, up for grabs and incomplete. And it'll be third down, as there was some good coverage out there on the outside as well.
Simon Herrera down there to break that one up. And I think it's football in general is interesting, the way it's evolved over the years, and especially when you start to look, you kind of look at a game here, and again, it's not exactly the way it was played in 1920, but a lot of elements are, and then you compare it to the way today's football game goes, and as you mentioned, just those kind of little elements that kind of get played in, play here, play there, some movement, and it just shows how much the game has evolved. Over the years. I think that's one of the great things about sports in general is no era is the same. You look at even 20 years ago, every game's just a little bit different, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, whatever it is, everything just changes over time, and you see a lot of that on display here today.
It almost makes it even more important to have events like this just to see how far we have come in a lot of these sports, football and beyond, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's cool to see, and while a play like this is pretty standard that you might see, again, just a handoff to the outside going up the sideline, a lot of speed there for the Universal Tractors. But yeah, you just kind of see those modern twists, and keeping that history alive is almost as important of keeping the independence alive as much as just how the game was played back then.
That was Connor Hauberg, by the way, on the carry, and he got the first down for Moline. Still down by 4, still looking for that score to put themselves in front. They were down 10-0 earlier in this ball game, so they've got an opportunity to get in front for the first time today with a touchdown. And as we talked about with David, this is the second time these teams have played. They played actually back in September, and it was Moline, the Universal Tractors, with a 17-7 win. So Rock Island right now looking for a little bit of revenge, but still plenty of time here as we've just started here in the fourth quarter.
These games are always about getting a series and kind of going head-to-head and add a little pride as well.
Diving attempt there as McKay got rid of it, incomplete. And Connor Hauberg was the intended target. What a play there by McKay, though, extending the play out as far as he could, trying to get something going downfield.
Threw it as he was kind of sliding to the ground as well, and almost a great catch, but a great throw and a great job just to get that ball away as well. And see Devontae Levi on the screen right there. We had a chance to talk to him a little bit in between quarters, and he's a guy who has played football at the semi-pro level. And and kind of speaking with him, and also what we heard from Simon as well, there are a number of these players out here who it's continuing, their football careers. They might not have been able to have glory days in the NFL or major college or anything, but they're accomplished high school players, college players, and in some semi-pro leagues that are being able to come out here and just continue to play a game that they love.
Yeah, we caught up with Levi, said he was a semi-pro player, played at Iowa City High as well back in high school. A great football career for him and several others out on the field today. Now Fausch tries to cut back as he crosses midfield. And it will be third down here for the Universal Tractors.
Yeah, Fausch, another one of those guys who's been on the semi-pro circuit as well, and sounds like there's about 4 or 5 that are playing on some teams here in the Quad Cities or out in Cedar Rapids, and being able to come here and again just kind of help keep this history alive. And while there are a number of those guys, there's also plenty out there that you can tell are not in the prime peak physical shape of their football careers that are still out here again continuing to share the game and spread the independent name, the Universal Tractor name, and just keep this vintage game alive.
And it's really interesting to see how it's competitive, certainly, and it's also so much fun. Like, they're having a great time out there, and they're being very competitive with it as well. Here's a deep ball toward the end zone and incomplete. As it was knocked down, and was that Levi once again that was in on the deflection.
He's smiling like he should have had that one going the other way, as he already has one interception. He was telling some folks in the crowd that he was getting ready for another one, so almost had it there.
Yep, calling his own shot. Levi says he feels a pick coming, and it was almost right there, but instead it'll be 4th down and long for the Universal Tractors. Said he did play a little safety as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, running back and safety, and he's doing it all out there. And again, we've been watching this game and talking to some of these players and talking about them as well. And you can tell a lot of these players have some serious athletic ability. Yeah. And while it might not have been yesterday or today that they're out there, you know, maybe a few years ago, but this is a really good competitive game, good competitive score, obviously at 10-6, and both these teams just looking to get one big play on one side of the ball to get their team to a win.
McKay has a long way to go here on 4th and 16, so he'll heave it up to the end zone, one-on-one, and the pass falls incomplete, but then a flag comes in at the tail end of the play. So we might get our first pass interference call of the day, and it will set the Universal Tractors up with fantastic field position if it's the case.
It should be a 15-yard penalty, similar to what we have in today's football game. Some of the penalties have been adjusted over the years and kind of moving through, but a lot of them are unnecessary roughness, 15 yards, and looks like that's probably what we're going to get on this one as they walk the ball forward. And looks like they place it right about the 28 or so.
And a fresh set of downs for the Universal Tractors on what I believe was our first penalty of the afternoon.
Yeah, first time we've seen the yellow flag out on the field, and that was one that could have been called each way, but I think it was the right call with the defender coming in late over the top.
McKay will throw outside. There is Fouch making the catch, slips past one, and is brought down by Herrera just outside of the 10-yard line. So that's another first down, and it will be first down and goal for the Universal Tractors, officially spotted at about the 12.
Those passes underneath are where the Universal Tractors need to keep the game going. Whenever they've been throwing it deep, that hasn't worked too well, and the independent run defense has been very strong all game. We've talked about that early on in the first quarter, that they weren't giving up much. So those passes underneath, let McKay find those guys that are going just a few yards past the line of scrimmage, pick them up in motion, head to the outside, and there we go, first and goal now for the Universal Tractors. And again, I still think that's one of the best nicknames I've heard ever in sports.
Now, this is a part of the field where you have to be kind of careful if you're on offense, because an incompletion in the end zone does equate to a turnover. So we'll see how they play it. It'll be a pass here from McKay, short of the end zone. It is caught. It's Obert trying to work his way close to the goal line, and he is down. Looks like
just
short.
Big pick up there for Moline.
So he is down short.
Connor Obert down to the just inside
that's
the 5.
pretty much down to the 2, perhaps.
It is right there.
Yeah.
And that was a great point that you made about an interception in the end zone, or incompletion, excuse me, past the goal line, is that becomes turnover. And that was something that was an original rule in the NFL. And again, things have evolved over time, just like with the goalposts moving to the back of the end zone rather than in front of the end zone. But that's something that all these players have to be aware of right now is, when it looks like they're right about the 4 or the 5 yard line, it takes out most of the passing game.
Second down and goal. They'll hand off. Fouch cuts back inside, and there's one of those inadvertent tackles. But he is brought down, and it will be once again a third down and goal for the Universal Tractors.
Everybody having a good laugh once again after that, as you mentioned, inadvertent tackle. That's a great way to say it. Not the plan in place. That's what happened.
And we mentioned, all these football players past and in some cases present, it just has to be difficult. It's almost muscle memory at this point in a lot of these guys' careers to just wrap up and bring him down.
Especially the ones that are still playing competitively. You aren't, again, used to those backyard flag football rules anymore.
Here we go, third down. Pressure's on. McKay gets away. He'll throw to the end zone, tipped, and there it is. There's the interception. It is picked off, and the Independents have the takeaway, and guess who? Levi comes away with it.
And he was prepared for it, and that's what happens when you have to throw to the end zone, and just it would have been incomplete or a turnover anyways if it was incomplete. That one comes into the hands of Levi, and he'll take it from there and put the Independents right back on offense.
I mentioned our brief conversation with Devontae Levi where he said he feels like he's going to have a pick. That was right before the fourth quarter started. There it is, and it was a big one for the Independents as they were backed up near their own end zone. So the end zone interception for Levi. Ball is at the 10 for the Independents here in the fourth quarter as they look to take some time off the clock on this drive and potentially in this ball game. They've got a lot of field to work with to do it as well. It's first down from the 10-yard line.
Starting to get late into the fourth quarter, and now clock management becomes a part of the game as well.
D'Angelo Allison that time on the carry, and a decent amount of yards there on first down. Call it about a gain of about 3 or 4.
To the 14.
And they don't mind that, just keeping that clock rolling. Obviously a running clock outside of 2 minutes anyway. So if you're the Independents, you want to just take your time here and let as much time wind down and get close to the end of this ball game as you can.
We've mentioned a few times that changes in rules kind of throughout the years, and we kind of have a list of them that was provided to us by Simon Herrera, and we'll kind of go through some of these in between plays. It's really interesting.
Start with this play by Levi as he was still working his way through. Got close to the 20-yard line with that carry.
Levi with the carry for Rock Island.
We've talked about the goalposts that were obviously at the front of the end zone as they are here today, but in 1906, there was a rule that a forward pass over the goal line that was not caught was a touchback, and the ball went back to the defending team. So that's what we've mentioned with those turnovers as well. I mean, could you imagine if that was a rule today? You'd have so many fewer touchdown passes because you couldn't throw the ball to the end zone. All has to be in front of it or face a turnover possibly.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the NFL being a quarterback league as it is now, you would almost not even, it's unimaginable in today's game as the carry up the middle goes for Allison, and he's going to have a first down for the Independents.
Another difference, and this one changes a little bit, but not a ton. In 1910, a player had to throw the ball at least 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Now you just have to be any amount of behind it, but 5 yards back kind of limits the quarterback's mobility a little bit.
It would not be pretty good for some of those superstar quarterbacks that use all the field now. Or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson's. Be pretty difficult for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allison carries off right side. And Allison, he's feeling it, as you can see there on that carry. Had a good gain just short of the 30.
A little bit of trash talk going on out here, and again, early on in the game, it's a little bit fun, and everyone's out here. And as we get later in the game, you start trying to see, okay, who's in it to win it.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that from a few of the Independents here lately.
Independents still have that 10-6 lead as they look to really close this game out. You saw the pass attack heavily featured in their offense throughout the game. Obviously not the case right now as they look to kind of wind it down. And of course, as I say that, Herrera's back to pass, and he's brought down in the backfield. It will be a sack for the Universal Tractors, and Luke Cooley making the play.
Moves them all the way back to about the 22-yard line for third down.
Third down and 18.
An interesting, a couple other interesting tidbits from the changes of 1920 versus today. No communication was allowed between players or coaches who were not officially on the field. So, now you see coaches yelling, and obviously there's a radio, between the play caller and the quarterback, and also to a defensive player. But there was never any communication.
Deep shot there is intercepted. the pick there for Connor Obert. And boy, what a big takeaway that was late in the game, as Moline once again has another opportunity to get in front here for the first time today, late in the game.
And they'll have that chance. Not about 4.5 minutes to go here. It's not a long time, but just enough time for the Universal Tractors to get in there. And what's nice too, 4.5 minutes, they don't need to take a deep shot at anything too quick. They can move the ball, but where they are, they can still pick up a first down.
Yeah, going back to that communication point, I mean, look at how far it's gone. I mean, we go from the time frame that is represented here and the leather thin helmets to now those super sophisticated helmets with communication on the inside of them. How far we've come.
1920 seems a long time ago when you start looking at those. And then, you know, today we're seeing plenty of huddles out there, but actually huddles were never used in 1920. Quarterback just made the play call.
Fouch on the carry, and he was brought down before getting to the outside by Ethan Blaze. Right at about the line of scrimmage.
One of the rules of this game is everyone has to get into a huddle before the play. There's no huddle allowed. Everyone just has to huddle up, as you're seeing on your screen right there, and discuss the play and come right back to it. But yeah, it's so interesting when you start looking at how the game is changing and evolved just overall. But so much of it's still the same. When you look at the goalposts, still 18 feet, 6 inches apart. Crossbar is 10 feet high. That has not changed. That was pre-1894, still the same today.
Second down and 18. McKay looking deep, throwing deep, one-on-one out there. And that ball was pulled in. My goodness, what a catch. That's Connor Obert making the grab inside the 10 for Moline, and it's 1st and goal. My goodness, got that one over Levi.
You know, a little bit of talk coming in from the Universal Tractors as well, and making sure everyone's well aware of what just happened. But there was the deep shot for the Universal Tractors. They've been looking for that most of the game, and it has not been there. But they picked the perfect time to do it. As we were late in the 4th quarter, 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. And here we go, 1st and goal for the Universal Tractors. Pretty much game on the line right here over the next few plays.
Do or die right here for Moline, their last shot. They've got 4 downs to do it. And as you just said, just a little over 2 minutes to do it as well. So it starts with 1st down and goal. Ball is right at about the 5-yard line. McKay will hand off. Fouch cuts back inside, looking for the end zone. He is in. Touchdown, Moline. They've taken the lead inside of 2 minutes to go.
A 5-yard touchdown.
Just what the Universal Tractors were looking for. You get the big pass down the field and punch it in to take their very first lead of the game. And it's definitely been a game of runs for the Independents as well, as they took a quick 10-0 lead. And just like that, now the last 12 points of this game have come from the Universal Tractors.
Yep, 10 unanswered for Rock Island to start. Now 12, and the possibility for at least 13 for Moline.
Looks like they will try that traditional place kick again. They do have the option of a place kick for 1 point or a drop kick where the ball hits the ground first before it is kicked. And if that goes through, that's good for 2 points.
1 point try is good.
Hey, Michael Schmadke, the kick is good.
Kick good by Schmadke, 13-10. Moline leads it with 44 seconds left to play in the game.
1:30 to go in the game.
Now we say 1:30, so we've got 1:30 left to play. So a little bit of time left here for the Independents, as they will have an opportunity to get back in front.
Not a lot of time here, but we've seen the athleticism that some of the Independents have, and especially when you're looking at the flag football, you go to get a flag, you miss, and that can keep somebody going quite a while. The clock will only stop now. It will not stop for an incompletion, I don't believe. It's just for if there's a turnover or if there is a score. So pretty much 1.5 minutes, that's what the Independents have to work with. They'll be trying to get up to the line as quickly as possible after every play. And see where it leads here with 90 seconds to go.
And I believe the Independents have timeouts to work with as well. Look at that booming kick all the way through the end zone. Mercy. Well, he put a leg into that one, didn't he?
Just what the Universal Tractors were looking for as they head out there on defense, looking for one stop. And that would be a 2 games in a row for Moline over Rock Island Independence.
Well, last game, September 11th, 17-7 win for the Universal Tractors. And not a lot of time left for the Independents if they want to draw even in the season series.
So the ball is at the 10-yard line after the touchback.
It will be a 1st down and 10 from the 10.
And also now a 13 to 10 game. The field goal is in play.
Yes.
We've started to see a little bit of how far that ball can go when it's kicked right.
Herrera will throw out of the end zone, deep shot, and that pass is intercepted. The pick by Hauberg, and that is a big one late in the game for the Universal Tractors.
That's back-to-back big interceptions for number 6, and that's exactly what they were looking for, just to keep this going as Hauberg pulls in his 2nd one, and that should pretty much do it in this game as the Moline Universal Tractors, wow, right in line to come away with another win.
The defense for Moline stepping up huge at the end of this game. 2 big takeaways and put it right in the position for their offense to get the job done, and they did. And now here late in the 4th quarter, a 13-10 lead. And now Moline is in the clock management mode, just trying to get this game down to the end. Got a minute left.
1 minute to go.
As you mentioned, the timeouts are still available, so can take things a little bit of time. And if there's a bad snap, again, remember it's an automatic dead ball.
Run to the outside. Now cut back in, and a nice run here. Looks like that is going to be close to a 1st down, and a timeout is taken.
We got it. It's a nice pickup by Austin Martin for Moline.
Austin Martin on the carry. Number 16 for the Universal Tractors.
48 seconds left.
And the clock stops with 48 seconds to go.
And where the ball is at, it's a 2nd down. Very, very close to the 20-yard line. Looks almost about the
48 seconds to go.
Maybe right about the 21. If they're across the 20, they're able to pick up that 1st down.
Fouch is in at quarterback here. And the first, I believe that was a 1st down run, and there's a little bit of miscommunication here as that ball was at the 20.
30 seconds to go.
As the clock continues to run, 30 seconds left. It's down in distance at this point. Pretty much not mattering at this stage of the game as we are inside of 30 seconds, and the Universal Tractors are well on their way to victory. Just playing out the rest of the game here. There's a nice stop in the backfield. As the stop was made there by Ethan Blaze, and the final seconds will tick off the clock, and the game is over. And how about the Moline Universal Tractors coming back from 10-0 down to get the win with a final score of 13-10.
That's the way you come back in a game like this, and everyone put on a show, and that's what it was all about, of showcasing vintage football out here at Hauberg Estate in Rock Island. Great game. Again, we saw the Independents take the early lead, only to have the Universal Tractors come back and pick up the win right at the end of the game. Well played game. Nice historic game, and a lot of fun had by all out here.
Absolutely, what a fun game. We will take a quick break, come back to wrap things up in just a moment. 13-10, Universal Tractors get the win over the Independents, their 2nd of the year. Back after this on MC22. 13-10 the final score. The Moline Universal Tractors get the win in Game 2 of this year in the vintage football game. Really a fantastic game once again, and as you see some of the players taking pictures, celebrating after a fantastic game. This is all about the history, of course, of pro football here in Rock Island and the history of this series. And for more on that, we go back to Natalie Johnson.
The game looked a little different back in 1920 as the teams geared up in long-sleeve jerseys and, of course, the classic leather helmets.
It's a riot because growing up, learning as a young man that we had a professional football team here in Rock Island and be able to play football here in Rock Island, to relive this and put on the old jerseys and reenact history, awesome. Happy to be a part of it and enjoy doing it every year and as many times as we can.
Perhaps the biggest challenge of it all, the 1920 style melon football.
Just the rules back then, it was a little bit tougher game, just running the ball and a lot less passing. It was kind of risky to throw this ball, it floats a lot, so just you got to call short plays and a lot of runs. And you know, we use this big ball on purpose because a lot of guys now want to just throw it all over like the modern day, but we want to make it look like a 20s game from the sideline, so we're using the bigger ball that they used back then on purpose to make it look like a game would have looked in Douglas back then.
For many players like Randy Vase, the event is more than just a game, and you'll find him at Douglas Park every year.
I love football, and I love Rock Island, and you're putting two of my loves together, you're going to find me there for sure. And if I can't walk it, I'll announce it. I'll be here no matter what. If I got to come up in a rascal scooter, I'll be here.
Yeah, it's always nice to see some of those familiar faces, some new faces, as this great event that honors this fantastic history of football in the Quad Cities continues.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, looking through those, you saw a lot of players who were out here today and also some new faces. And it's just such a cool thing that goes on, and that it's not only becoming a once-a-year thing, but also a series that'll continue to go on out here. And again, between here at Hauberg Estate, over at Douglas Park, that it has a role in the Quad Cities is pretty unique and pretty exciting to see it continue.
A very exciting game today as well. 13-10 the final score. Moline with the win. We will wrap things up on MC22 right after this. Final score 13-10. The Moline Universal Tractors get the win over the Rock Island Independents, their second win over the Independents this season. And really, Steve, it's a testament of how that team played, especially in the second half. After being down 10-0 in the first half, they come all the way back, score the last 13, and win the ball game on this great day.
Yeah, nobody folded on the Universal Tractors side. They kept going after that rough start to everything. And again, just a fun game out here. You see fans of all ages out here today, and just a fun game, kind of revisiting history a little bit. Good for the community, good for the history of football. Professional football brings it back a little bit to its roots, and a good day out here by everyone. We talked about it was going to be a fun day, and it certainly was, especially if you were a Universal Tractor side out there for Moline. But the Independents obviously still making their name known and still continuing this fun tradition that's begun going on here in the Quad Cities.
Hey, you know what I love to see too, the competitiveness during the game. We saw it. It was there. There was even a little bit of jawing back and forth, but at the end, everybody came together, took a picture. It was happy. It was exactly what you want from something like this. Which the reason we're all here, of course, is to preserve and honor the history of everybody that came before us.
Yeah, we even saw a little bit of a jersey swap going on out there on the field too. So these guys, they know each other on both sides, and it feels very much kind of like Rock Island and Moline, where everyone's neighbors, everyone comes together. Even when you talk about the Rocks and the Maroons, there's still a lot of friends on both sides of those kind of rivalries, whether it's football, soccer, volleyball, basketball, track, whatever rivalry it is. And that kind of thing started long ago between the Independents and the Universal Tractors, and continues out here today. And again, all the way through Rock Island and Moline, we see the connection, and it's just a continued fun event out here, and just bringing it back to the roots.
It's what football's all about, right? Bringing us together. And it did once again on this great day at Hauberg Estate Park. Again, the final score, the Universal Tractors of Moline with the win 13-10 over the Rock Island Independents. For Steve Campbell and the rest of our great MC22 crew, I'm Redrick Terry. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time